The 2018 primary elections kick off Tuesday in Texas. Early voting totals are showing record levels of interest in the elections, especially among Democrats. Alana Rocha is a multimedia journalist for the Texas Tribune. She joins us live from Austin via Skype. All right, Alana, so what is driving this high level of turnout, particularly among Democrats?
Well, I mean, you can argue that the Trump effect has some sort of play in this, that being the Republican president and his upset to many Democrats across the country, his upset win in 2016, and just our polling here at the Texas Tribune, along with the University of Texas at Austin, shows a strong disapproval among Democrats of his job performance since taking office. So you have that, another factor, or just the issues. So depending on where you are here in Texas, might depend what's driving you to the polls. At least along the Gulf Coast, a lot of Texans are going to the polls and measuring candidates based on, the state and federal response to how they've handled Hurricane Harvey. So they're voting on that. Immigration continues to be a huge issue here in the Lone Star State. And those are issues that are likely to continue and will continue into November.
Yeah, how likely is it, you think, that we'll see similar turnout numbers in November?
Well, I think you have to measure whether or not how much Trump is playing into those numbers. And of course, we know the president isn't shy from making headlines daily. And so that is likely to continue into November and driving Democrats in particular to the polls.
Well, let's take a look at specific races, starting with the big one, Ted Cruz's Senate seat. El Paso Congressman Beto O'Rourke is looking to unseat the first-term senator. Is a Democratic senator really possible in 2018 Texas?
There is a lot of hope and many years of talking about turning Texas blue. A lot of them have talked about it maybe in later election years, not this time around. But again, you have the president who O'Rourke has not been shy about railing against on the campaign trail. He's been on the campaign trail a long time. He's outraised the sitting senator a few different times now. And if you look at the breakdowns of those fundraising totals, it's from several thousand individual donors. O'Rourke, we know, has vowed not to take money from political action committees, which we know Cruz has taken money from. And so the fact that he's outraising them without that being a factor says something.
Well, another seat that Democrats are looking to flip sits right on the U.S.-Mexico border. Congressman Will Hurd, a Republican who is openly critical of the president's border wall, is the incumbent there. He won in 2016 by just 1 point. Will he be able to hold on come November?
I don't know. You know, he has 5 Democrats vying in that race to challenge him in November. The 5 Democrats don't really differ among how, they see different positions. They're pretty much in line with the party platform when it comes to immigration, health care, gun violence. 2 are trying to separate themselves. Hewlings and Ortiz Jones are 2 candidates with themselves also backgrounds in the intelligence field, if you will. Of course, Hurd is a former CIA agent. And so more they're trying to separate themselves on who can take on Hurd the best in November. So those with being a former federal prosecutor in Hewlings, Jay Hewlings, and Gina Ortiz Jones being a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, they're trying to measure themselves up against Hurd and saying they can take him on.
Well, another big name in Texas is Bush, the grandson of our 41st president and son of former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. George P. Bush is running for re-election as Texas Land Commissioner. Tell us about his race and the fight over the Alamo.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it would be such a hot race being land commissioner. A lot of people maybe don't pay attention to either what that office does or that it's normally such a contested race. But here you have George P.'s predecessor, the former Texas Land Commissioner Jerry Patterson, trying to unseat George P. Patterson has been very critical of George P. in his first term, both his handling and management of the Alamo, the iconic structure down in San Antonio, and, his handling of what falls under the land office being temporary housing for Hurricane Harvey victims, and saying he's mishandled that. So he's been very vocal and loud and saying that it's a loss for George P. if this goes into a runoff.
Well, none of these races will be over until November, but some districts are so heavily Republican or Democratic that they'll basically be all but decided after Tuesday. Let's talk about one seat that's being given up by retiring Democrat Gene Green. Tell us what's interesting about his district.
Yeah, 7 Democrats there. And, you know, what's interesting is the fact that the front runner going into this is State Senator Sylvia Garcia, who actually lost in the primary 26 years ago to Jean Green. She's now garnered several national and local endorsements, seem to be the favorite. But you have another candidate in this race in the Democratic primary, a healthcare executive, Tahir Javid. And he says he'll spend whatever it takes to win this race. And so some are questioning whether or not Garcia can make it out of tomorrow's primary without having to go to a runoff.
All right, a lot to watch in the Lone Star State. Alana Rocha in Austin for us. Alana, thanks very much.
Thank you.